Well, happy days. I've been really wanting to do this video for a long time, and we're finally there. We hit we're over 100,000 subscribers now, and I do truly appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And again, this is going to be a giveaway video, and you know, I really want to showcase the things that pretty much got us here. First off is this box elder burl. I've done a ton of videos with this box elder burl, and it is absolutely spectacular stuff. And I think that it's important that it's incorporated in this piece. These are white pine cones that are from my property. So this is, you know, something that's directly from me into this piece, whoever wins it. Along with that, we've got some sweet gum pods that were sent to us from Kelly. And these, I think, they're just a really cool looking thing, and I want to use them. These black walnut shells that the squirrels help get the meat out of them. These come from John, and again, these are really cool looking when they're cast with resin. And we've got some bunya nut pine cone petals that come all the way from Australia from Ernie. So thanks to everybody that sent me stuff over the last 3 years here. I mean, there's been a lot of it. Along with that, I don't always show this, but every time that I do a pour, if there's leftover epoxy, I'll pour it into half moon molds or planet molds. So we're gonna throw a bunch of that in here. And again, this is just smaller diameter stuff. Should make it very colorful. The only thing that I'm really truly missing is the Banksia pods. That's a very popular video on my channel here. It's got 2.5 million views on it, but I just didn't think to order any before this video, and you know, time's up. I got to get this video done. So you know, I've got more of this stuff, and we're gonna use this as a base and build off of it. But you know, the main thing that I think that got us to where we are is the epoxy. Traditionally, in the past, the epoxy videos seem to do better than my natural inlay videos or just straight up wood videos. So, you know, I think that it's really important to pay respect to that as well. Now, what I want to do is do a kintsugi vase again. But of course, we're going to be using different colors, and with all of these colors incorporated in it again, it should really look very colorful and have these unique pieces throughout it. So that's this video. First thing we're going to do is get this glued in place, and we'll kind of place everything in as we want it, and then we'll do some resin epoxy. What does that give us for a height? That should finish out at 6.5 as long as we have enough resin sitting on the very top of this. All right, let's mix up some resin. Oh, look, there's a straggler. Almost forgot him. I'll get a weight on this because I know the problem is that this, well, I'll leave it off for now. But when we pour the resin in, I know that this is going to float, so I'm going to need this to hold it down, but we'll do that after it starts to float. Okay, so now the plan is, in order to get good color separation, we're going to throw these in the clean room, and once they get up to around 50 degrees, we'll do the pour, maybe a little more than that. And again, I mean, I want this to thermal crack and thermal crack badly, so that's why I'm using such a large volume of resin. If you don't have the volume of resin, then you may not get the cracking, the thermal cracking that you want, so you can do the kintsugi method. All right, talk to you in a bit. Well, we're at 53.7, so we got to get going here. This is as good as I can do for you. Man, don't like dropping this from this height. Would have liked to seen a little bit more, but well, that's what we're going to have to work with because it's too late now. This should be ready to go tomorrow. I'll open it up, and if it is, we'll see you then. Well, here we are the next day. You'll notice that there's blue on the top of this, and that's because when I shut the camera off yesterday, I just wasn't real happy with the resin level. So I mixed up 3/4 of a liter and of the sapphire blue. So I wanted maybe a little darker blue in there. It's probably just going to be sitting on the top and probably not going to be a factor anyway. But at least the casting had something to draw from if it needed it. All right, so the next step is we're going to get this out, and oddly enough, I don't see any thermal cracking yet. Interesting. Say what? There's no thermal cracking.
How is that possible?
I don't know. Oh, there is right there.
Put it over here. Put by your finger.
No, I think that's the bucket. Oh, wow. That's all wood on the bottom, so I understand why there wouldn't be any down there, but up in this area there should be lots of that, and there isn't.
It's
No, I wanted it to crack. So it's not good stuff. Very cool patterns though.
yeah. It's very pretty.
So my wife likes it. I don't know what to say. I am just completely shocked over this. I thought this thing would be just right full of cracks with that resin in there that wasn't, that, you know, should have cracked. But all there is one right here. I don't know if the camera is even going to pick it up because it's actually quite small. It's always something. Definitely got color separation with the two blues. I'm really happy with that. Really like all of this kind of resin bits shining through. Just a little shocked that this isn't cracked all to pieces. And disappointed. You won't hear that very often, will you? The resin caster going, oh geez, I'm glad. I was really hoping for more cracks. Oh man. All right, so I think at this point, I suspect that there's probably going to be more thermal cracking down inside of this piece. Maybe the wood acted as a heat sink and absorbed a lot of the heat, and that's why it didn't split. or crack more often, or more places. Wow. Well, I guess at this point, all we can do is throw this on the lathe, trim it up, and see if there's any more cracking down inside of the casting, and then we'll do another pour then. But that's going to have to wait for another day because my son's wedding's coming up soon. So after the wedding, I'll tackle this. I just wanted to pop this out because I was really dying to see how this was going to look. And all the red in that box elder burl too is really going to tie in with a lot of the red pieces that I put in here too. Anyway, when the wedding's over, we'll tackle that. Just when you think that you've got epoxy figured out, it will let you know that it's actually in charge and you're not. So, again, very shocked to not see this thing completely cracked. If you remember the last one we did, when I pulled it out of the bucket, it was just full of cracks. So I had totally anticipated that this was going to be the same thing, but, well, here we are. So what I've got to do now is get this mounted on the lathe, get it trimmed up, and expose any more cracks. And, you know, I won't ruin it for you, but there are more. But of course, we can't fill those cracks unless they're exposed. So mounting this between centers, and once we've got all that excess epoxy gone, then we'll be able to move on to the next step. But yeah, just one of those things. Epoxy's always in charge. As you watch me trim this piece up, I'm going to have to cover this again. It doesn't happen every giveaway video, but the scammers no doubt will be out. And what they will do is they will contact you either by email or they will reply to the comment that you leave here on YouTube. And if they do, please report that email as spam. I've publicly stated that I will never ask you for any money for any of these giveaways. Now, there's a reason why it's called a giveaway. So what they're doing is contacting people saying, oh, please provide shipping and we'll ship your item out. So please don't get caught up in that. If you win this project, I will ship it worldwide at my expense. So if you do get an email, please report it as spam. If they reply to your comment here on YouTube, there are 3 dots to the right of that comment. Click on those 3 dots and then another tab will open up and you can report it as spam. And if you do that, then YouTube will take all of their comments down and basically ban them from YouTube or that username anyway. So it's unfortunate. This is the world that we live in. But I don't want to see anybody get taken by these people. So please do that. And there we can finally see some thermal cracks. I was really worried that there was only just going to be the one. But anyway, on the very top, that piece of wood, I think, was maybe holding in the heat. But there are a number of smaller thermal cracks in this piece. But the only real large ones were up near the very top. As to be expected, that's where the largest amount of volume of epoxy was. But, you know, it's this is one of the great things I like about epoxy. It in a way, it keeps you guessing. But the stuff that you can create from epoxy amazes me. The colors are absolutely fantastic. And I'm really digging the color separation in this piece. We do, for the most part, lose the gray color in this piece. It must have just kind of blended with the 2 blues, but I was really kind of hoping to see some gray in there as well, just to give this a little bit more different color look, if you will, compared to what it's normally been. The blue is by far the most requested color on my channel when doing resin casting. And there you can see the great color separation, the hyper shift pigments that are in there, just absolutely awesome. And I'm really digging this piece at this point. But would have liked to see those thermal cracks being much larger. That way when we do the second pour, the kintsugi method would have been more pronounced than what we ended up with. I should also mention that we are using the Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems. This is the number 3, the larger 5/8 diameter one. And this is by far my go-to tool for working with resin and wood combos or wet or straight resin. You can do this with high-speed steel. A lot of people ask me, can I turn this with my gouge? And yes, you can. The only difference is you're going to be at the grinder a lot. That's where carbide tools have the advantage over high-speed steel tools. And so, I would sooner be turning than at the grinder all the time, sharpening my gouge. So this is where I really like the Hercules. And the Hercules, while the cutter itself is not a negative rake cutter, the tool itself, the front of it is dipped down, and that makes it negative rake. That's another question that I get fairly often as well. For the second pour, we're going to use the Pro Series again. I figured it was probably best to stay with that. And this time I'm going to go for a white kintsugi method. Now, of course, traditionally it's gold, so I'm going to use pure white. And I initially mixed this up, and I wasn't happy with, I needed it to be a stronger white color. Another option might have been maybe red. That would have been something new that we haven't tried before. But I thought with all the blues that were in this, that the white was the way to go. I eventually just dumped the bag in it. And one of the ways that I like to have a look at it is to put the stir stick in it and then look at it. And if you can see the stir stick below the color that you're mixing, then it needs to be stronger. So that's why I went to the other crystallized white. And eventually I've mixed it up strong enough that I figure that we've got it. But I did put a lot of pigment in this, that's for sure. Okay, well, I hope this is going to be a strong enough white. And I may have too much mixed up, but we'll see. I got to fill all around the sides here. And all of these cracks, so I'll keep some of it in reserve. There, we'll stop there. Well, I used 2/3 of it anyway. All right, we're going to use the vacuum chamber to make sure that it fills in all of these little cracks. So that's up next. If you're going to try this method, I do strongly recommend using the vacuum chamber. And it's also important to make sure that the casting is always submerged in the epoxy. There's really no point in doing this method if you're not going to have the casting submerged in the epoxy, because of course you won't be able to fill all the cracks. Now, the majority of the air that you see coming out of this, I believe, is coming from that box elder burl. It can be punky, the stuff that I have, and of course box elder isn't a real strong, dense wood anyway. So I do believe that the majority of the bubbles that you see coming there are actually from the box elder burl, and it was even spitting up onto the to the lid as well. I mean, just look at it rolling out of there. But by keeping that casting submerged in the epoxy, you're ensured that it's going to fill in all of the cracks. Especially some of these are really, really fine cracks, and I wasn't 100% confident that by throwing it in the pressure pot, it was going to fill those cracks. So this, I think, is the best way to make sure that you actually fill all of those thermal cracks. I'm actually really surprised to see that floating. I thought that there'd be more than enough weight there to keep that down. This will do it. Put the rock on there. All right, so that's full vacuum. Hopefully you can see it there, 30 inches. Yeah, so I'm going to do this for probably another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to put it in the pressure pot, and then we'll see you guys tomorrow. This is worrying me because it's Tuesday, and we got a big day tomorrow, or else this video is going to be late. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Well, good morning. It's the next day. Let's get this out and have a look at it. Should be good to go from here. Should be. Look everybody, it's white. Yeah, so we're gonna have to do the same thing again. Cut it back, and then hopefully all of the cracks are filled in. I know there's a lot of epoxy on here, and I know a lot of people may be upset about that, but you know, I wasn't exactly sure how much more this was gonna take to fill the cracks, so better to have too much than not to have enough. So I'm really hoping that the white is going to be really strong in those cracks and we'll be able to see it really nicely. Because in the past when I've used white, it doesn't really show up that well, and that's why I mixed it so strong. So, but we will see. I wasn't able to get this casting up over 750. I just was too much out of balance. Well, 750 isn't bad, but I mean, ideally you want to be 1,000, 1,200. And as you can see, I cut a lot of footage out of here because it's essentially the same thing that I did the day before. But anyway, at this stage, I'm pretty confident that we're going to have some really cool looking white lines in there. And once I get this stripped off, we'll have a look at it and have a little talk about things. This is another question that I get asked all the time if I hold on to my shavings. I do if the shavings have no wood in them. I find that if you tried it, and I've seen examples of it here on YouTube, where there's tiny little wood bits in the resin or the epoxy shavings, and you know, it just to me looks dirty when you look at the piece. So if there's no wood in it, then I'll hold on to them. But other than that, if they're nice and clean, I certainly will. And I think at this point I've got 3 or 4, maybe 5 bags, different colors, and we will see them in the future. So I'm just trimming away the excess epoxy that's on the surface, and I'm also going to taper off what's going to be the bottom of this piece. And you know, I could have reversed this piece. It could have gone in either direction, but I figured that I want to leave the wood on the bottom, so I started cutting in where the foot of the bowl, or the hollow form, is going to be. All right, so at this point, the white is only filled in spots where the resin was completely missing. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's filled in the cracks. And while it's not the look that I'm going for, and it still may polish out quite nicely, and we'll see that white, can we talk about the hypershift here? I mean, wow. This is going to be very, very beautiful. When that resin is polished out, areas like this, I mean, wow. It is going to be something else. I'm not worried about this. This is going to get trimmed away. I don't know. Please leave your comments down below. If this is the way that it ends up looking, if you try this in the future, or if you have a casting that cracks and the white isn't real noticeable when we're done with this, that would certainly be the way to repair any castings that have thermal cracked on you. Anyway, let's figure out what we're going to do for a shape here, and we'll get to hollowing. So the long and the short of it is we don't really see the white all that strongly in this piece, even though I mixed the white so strong. And I believe the reason for that is because of the pearl pigments and the hypershift. There's a lot of pearl in this, and it's kind of masking the white. If you had just used, say, an ink that Designer Epoxy sells as well, where there's no pearl pigments in it, then I think that it would have been more pronounced. It's an interesting development because in the future, if I have any more issues, I will certainly be just combining it with white. And there you can see, you know, that there's some faces from the walnut shells, and I mean, this thing is just popping with color, and I'm really digging the look of this at this point. Like I said earlier, like I would definitely put something like this in my own collection. And we're just going to cut in a tenon here so that I can reverse this, and we can work on the bottom and get a glue block on it. So that's what I'm doing there. This is kind of the same situation that I had with the crystal purple vase. Again, it's got 2.8 million views, I think. And the only difference there was I didn't really mix the pigments all that strong, the white, and also the purple wasn't mixed all that strongly either. So, you know, I didn't think that that was going to happen again, but that certainly did. But if I ever have issues with thermal cracking again, I will certainly use this method to repair it, especially if I'm using pearl pigments. Always learning. Since this is only being held by the resin tenon, I'm taking some light cuts here because it certainly can break off. Hit it with some 60 grit, and then you'll see me put a waste block on the bottom of this. And of course, that waste block has been dipped in hot melt glue, and that's actually from the peppermill video. Small little piece of walnut, so I thought I'd recycle it into a waste block. So once I get this trimmed up, I'll reverse it again. And then we can do some more shaping on this, and then of course we'll use the Forstner bits to take out the inside of it. I don't have dovetail jaws for my stronghold chucks from one way, so my tenons are typically just squared up. And eventually I get it with the parting tool, but it was a little tough to do coming in from the tailstock end. Off camera, I was really looking for a unique shape, and I know that, you know, you've seen the thumbnail, so it's very similar to some of the stuff that I've done in the past. But I was looking for a form that would showcase the epoxy and all the material that we put in that, along with the box of burl. And my intention at the time was to get an inlay in the top of this. And I'll cover this in a little bit. But, you know, it's very tough to come up with a form that's pleasing to the eye and does justice to the epoxy and all the things that are in it, along with the burl. So again, it's one of the things that I think a lot of artisans struggle with when they're on the lathe. As I said in the past, I really like to throw a piece of wood on there and just let it talk to me, and that's basically what I do each and every time I do put a piece on there. One thing that I would change, and it's not even really that big of a deal, and you know, by all means you can leave your comment down below. There is a straight line where the burl is, where it's flat, and that may take away from it a little bit, but you know, in the end it really doesn't bother me too much. A way around that, of course, would have been to grind that down to make it look more like a natural edge prior to casting. But still, I think that this is a very beautiful hollow form, and hopefully the winner sees it that way as well. Still tiny little thermal cracks. As you grind away more and more of the casting, you're probably going to find some of that, and we'll be filling those in with some UV epoxy in the future here. So anyway, just working on some final cuts here before we start taking out the inside of this piece. So as you watch me try and still figure out exactly what I want to do with this piece, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be curious about the wetting. So it was extremely warm. Thankfully, the wetting was at 7 o'clock. So that cooled down a little bit before the wetting. But it was extremely warm. But it was a good day for pictures, so that was good. And of course, we had an open bar, so you know you know it's going to be a good wedding when you've got an open bar. And so her father actually bought a lot of alcohol for the wedding, so that was great. Everybody had a great time. I'm going to respect their privacy and not put up any photos of the event. I don't think that they would really want that. But I have a new daughter-in-law, and they've been dating for 9 years, so it's about time that they got married. Welcome to the family. So because we used the Pro Series, I just didn't get enough time to fill in all these little voids that you see in all these pieces. This is really cool. I didn't really want to do a whole lot more with the shape because I want to make sure that we keep a lot of these elements. Doing more shaping, which I really kind of thought would look really nice, were to sweep in and come up to the top. But you know, you're going to lose a lot of the stuff that we put in there, and I'm really digging the way it looks now. I'm also really second guessing doing an inlay on the top of this. That's the other thing that's kind of really eating me up right now. I don't know how it's going to look, but anyway, we've got all these little holes to fill, and we're going to use the UV resin from Designer Epoxy to do that. I'm not going to bother tinting any of it. I'm just going to put it in, make sure that it fills in all the holes. And if you haven't seen this stuff before, it's really cool. You set it with the UV light. There, look at that. That is what that's going to, oh yeah. Mighty nice. All right, well, back on track here. Then you set it with a UV light. You can get this at Designer Epoxy as well. This will stay on here for 3 to 3.5 minutes. And then I'll work my way around the piece. We'll do a final trim with it, and then figure out what we're going to do with an inlay, or if we're going to do an inlay. See you in a bit. One thing that I haven't done yet is trued up underneath of the collar and figure out exactly what I want to do up there. So I'm using the Phoenix, and again, this comes from Hunter Tool Systems. And again, all of my sponsors, if you use code InlayGym at checkout, you'll get your discounts. Once that was done, I switched back to the Hercules and took a couple of final little passes on this, and we'll be able to figure out what we're going to do for an inlay. Well, I've been thinking about this while doing the UV resin here. And you know, my intention right from the get-go was to make sure that there was an inlay on the top of this. And my intention was to put it kind of here. But you know, to put that hard line and cut through all of these pieces on here and then have a solid band, I don't think it's doing the piece justice. I really don't. I know that the resin, or sorry, the inlay material has been a big part of my channel, but you know, I think by installing that here, we're doing the piece an injustice. If this was wider, you might be able to get it in here. This is too thin. By all means, share your thoughts, but I think that just by having a hard line in here, it's just not going to look right. Maybe if it was closer to here, but then it's going to be tough to sand, like very tough to sand. The resin will be softer than the other material, and this will probably get damaged. I could try and put a band of it around here, but I don't think that that's going to look good either. It's disappointing. The inlay is what really kind of started me on YouTube, but by putting it in this piece, I think I'm just going to ruin it. So that's my thoughts on that. We'll have to do that for the 200,000 subscriber giveaway. All right, let's set up the state of rest and get the inside of this taken out. One of the reasons why I picked the pigment colors that I did is because my intention was to put a mussel shell inlay in the top of this. And you may ask yourself, why mussel shells? And the reason why I want to use mussel shells is because I believe that the mussel shell inlay is unique to me. I started doing mussel shell inlays 20 years ago, and I never seen it anywhere before that. So, you know, that again is something that I feel is very unique to me, and I really wanted to incorporate it in this piece, but you know, it wouldn't have worked. And you know, it's the code you're using is InlayGym, and it's InlayGym for a reason, because that's what I started with when I came here to YouTube. So, you know, I really wanted to do some sort of a natural inlay in this, but you know, it just wasn't there. I wasn't feeling it, and sometimes you got to make that call when it comes to pieces like this. I should mention that we're using the one-way captive system here for hollowing, and I was able to use the largest boring bar and the extension that you can put on the end of this to basically do this whole piece. Not a real complex form on the inside, so it's quite easy to do that. I figured, hey, I wonder if I get this little flashlight, if I just tape that onto the boring bar, that'll give you guys a better look inside of the form as I'm working it. The cutter, I'm using a teardrop cutter here, and this is the first time that I really had to sharpen it a lot. And I don't know if it's just with all the things that were inside of this that was really taking the edge off of it, but I probably sharpened that teardrop cutter, I want to say probably 6 times during this whole turning process. Anyway, there's a bunch of footage that I cut out of here because there's not really a whole lot that you can see. I'm certainly open to trying other hollowing systems, but this one is more than adequate for what I'm doing right now. In the future, I would maybe like to do a lot more deeper hollowing, and if that's the case, I might have to make my own heavy duty boring bars. And if you've done that, I'm curious to know what kind of steel you used to do that, because I know that a lot of people do like to make their own turning tools. But for now, this one works, and the only knock that I've really got on it, and I know that I've said this in the past, is the thinner boring bars that come with the system tend to vibrate when you've got a lot of overhang off of the tool rest. Some will also be wondering if I've got my laser system set up, and the answer to that is no. I just had way too much on my plate here the last couple of weeks to get that done. But eventually I will get it done, and I will display it. I'll just hope that my walls don't look too bad. But it's high on my list of things to do, but I've just been way too busy. And that's what the piece looks like lit up. And I must say I'm pretty impressed with that. Finally, on to sanding. That is an extension that's in my drill, and you can get them at any wood turning supply place. And of course, we're using the 3.5-inch dipple disc from sandpaper.ca. Now, on the inside of this piece, it was sanded from 60 to 180. And on the outside, it was sanded from 60 to 220. I didn't really see the need to go any higher than that, and reached in as far as I could with the sandpaper just to make sure that the very top of this was quite nice. I did have an issue getting up next to the headstock, or up where the chuck is, with the drill. So you'll see me switch to the right angle air powered sander, and that I was able to get in close to the chuck in order to get it cleaned up and get it ready for its first coat of epoxy. All right, happy days. It is finish time. This is the Pro Series, 6 ounces of it. There's small little holes, so I think that it's probably best to use the Pro Series. And then maybe tomorrow, so a couple of reasons to use this. There's some fine little cracks here and there, so this will hopefully fill those up. And this will also seal off the burl in the back. And then tomorrow I'm hoping to do 2 coats of Waterlux gloss, and then hopefully that'll be it. An alternative to this would be the Art Cast. The Pro Series is designed as a countertop or an epoxy floor type epoxy, so it's a good choice for this. But you certainly could have got away with using Art Cast here as well. And that's a silicone barbecue brush that I'm using there, if you're curious. Well, I've made some neat and beautiful things over the last 3 years. This is way up there. Could be number 1. That Hyper Shift pigment, all the different colors in this. The walnut shells, bunya nut pine cone petals, sweet gum pods, and the pine cone. It is crazy busy, and I absolutely love it. All right, so what I'm going to do is just keep an eye on the wood on the back side of this. If it absorbs any more finish, I'll give it some more, or any more resin. I will give it some more and let this rotate on here for probably 3 hours. I'm absolutely in love with this thing. And I hope whoever wins it is as well. See you tomorrow when we're doing the first coat of Waterlux. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. All subject to change. See you tomorrow. Beauty. So this is in fact the next day, and on the outside of the form I'm sanding from 320 to 800. I've decided that I am going to use the Waterlux gloss, so I don't want to go down in grit, I want to go up in grit. Now that the burl is essentially sealed up with the epoxy, I should be able to do this in 2 coats, and that is in fact what it takes. It only takes 2 coats after this. For the inside, I ended up with I put the epoxy, too much epoxy on the inside, and even after the 3 hours, it wasn't enough for it to cure, and it ended up sagging a little bit on the inside. It wasn't a big deal. I just ground it down. My intention is to put another epoxy coat on the inside of this piece, but I just ran out of time. After it's sanded, we'll be able to buff this with a triple E buffing compound and then clean it up with a denatured alcohol like I usually do and get it ready for its first coat of finish. Well, first coat of Waterlux anyway. Okay, this is the first coat of Waterlux Gloss. There's a better look at it. Man, I love this thing. And that straight line, it doesn't really bother me. Ideally, yeah, wouldn't be there. Hypershift pigment's awesome. The burl on the bottom is awesome. Everything about it is awesome. Lots of red in this piece too. All right, so it is 9:30 in the morning. I plan on two coating this today. Once we get the second coat on, I'm running out of time, so it'll get another resin finish on the inside yet. But wow, very colorful. Anyway, I will do the second coat the same way as this one, and then we'll see you when we're doing the bottom. You day. So this is in fact the next day, and I was able to two coat it, so that was great. So as you watch me clean up the bottom, I just want to thank my sponsors, Designer Epoxy, Hunter Tool Systems, Starbond Adhesives, and sandpaper.ca. Thank you so much for supporting me and my subscribers. I really do appreciate it, and I know that they do as well. I know that these sponsors take a risk whenever they sponsor somebody, but it's been really an awesome experience, and hopefully moving forward it'll be even better. And again, thanks to everybody that watched my videos. Without you guys, I wouldn't be where I am. So thank you so much. Let's draw some names. These are the names for the $100 store credit from sandpaper.ca. There's only been 3 videos, so we'll throw those into a container and pick a winner for those. These are the names for the epoxy giveaway. Since the last giveaway, there's been 8 videos. These are the names that the random YouTube comment picker has selected for each one of those videos. We'll throw those names into our container and we'll draw a name, and that will be the winner of the 3-gallon kit from Designer Epoxy. Good luck. These names are for the hollow form giveaway. Since the last giveaway at 95,000 subs, there has been 11 videos. These are the names that the random YouTube comment picker has selected. All right, let's throw these into our container and pick a name for these as well. All right, let's do the sandpaper draw first. Here are the 3 names. And the winner of the $100 store credit from sandpaper.ca is, as soon as I get my hand on it, Larry Draper. You are the winner of the $100 store credit from sandpaper.ca. Congratulations. Send me your details to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com, and I will forward that to sandpaper.ca, and we'll get your $100 store credit to you. All right, let's do the epoxy draw next. Okay, so here are all the names for the epoxy draw. All kind of stuck together a little bit. And the winner of the 3-gallon kit from Designer Epoxy is Try to mix these up with my hand a little bit here. Here's the name. The Raven's Wing. I believe that's what that is. The Raven's Wing. You are the winner of the 3-gallon kit from Designer Epoxy. Again, send your details to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com and I will forward that to Designer Epoxy. Congratulations. Now the hollow form. Okay, so here are all the names for the hollow form giveaway. I'm all in there. And the winner of the 100,000 subscriber giveaway. Yeah, I'm going to try and mix these up best I can. Here it is right here. The winner is Brad Edwards. You are the winner of the 100,000 subscriber giveaway. Congratulations, and congratulations to the other winners. Thanks again for everybody that has commented on my videos. It's been really helpful, so please continue that. Anyway, congratulations, Brad Edwards, and I think it's a really special piece. And speaking of that, let's have a last little chat about it. Well, that hyper shift is just truly amazing in this piece. I've already shot the rotating footage at the end, so when it's lit up from inside, it's actually really cool. An absolutely beautiful piece, very colorful, very busy, and to be honest with you, if it wasn't going out for the subscriber giveaway, it might end up in my personal collection. There's the details on the bottom, barely getting around the outside of it. Lots of red in this box elder burl as well. That's something that's very specific to box elder burl. Size on this piece, so got this written down. It's 8 inches across, and that's 20 centimeters, and it's 5 3/4 inches tall, and that's 14.5 centimeters. It's about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch in thickness, maybe a little heavy in the base. I prefer to leave these turnings a little thicker in the base. That way, if somebody bumps into them, they're less likely to tip over. So that's, what is that? That's 6.5 millimeters to 9.5 millimeters in thickness. And I know that a lot of people are curious about a value of something like this. So I'm going to tell you what, if I was selling this piece is in the price range of $1,200 to $1,600 Canadian. And I might be selling myself short on that price as well. You know, if I'm probably leaning more towards 1,600 bucks is what a piece like this would go for. And I know that there's a lot of, I get a lot of comments, well, how much is it? How much is it? Well, there you go. That's what works in this category go for. I've certainly sold more that are a lot higher than this, but based on how much resin's used and materials used and time, on 1,600 bucks, I'd be quite happy with that. So that's an idea as to what these pieces cost. And again, the having that resin penetrate on the very bottom of this box little burl that's kind of on the punky side or soft, rotten side. This piece was a pretty good example, but some of the other pieces that we've had here on the channel have been really, really punky. So using that epoxy coat and sealing that up before you put the finish on really, really helped this piece. Anyway, it's a beauty, and hopefully the new owner loves it as much as I do anyway. So the last thing that I want to do is to thank you all for subscribing to my channel and watching my videos and putting up with the ads. The ads are a necessity for me and a lot of content creators here for YouTube. If we don't have the ads revenue, then there's no way that I could be here each and every week. So thank you all for putting up, watching with those ads. I'm still amazed that there's that many people in the world that want to hear what I've got to say each week, even though, you know, views are down. I don't know what's going on. YouTube's been really weird the last few months. But, you know, it's been very rewarding for me being here. And from the bottom of my heart and my family, thank you so much for your support here on YouTube. It means the world to me and to my family. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We've got bigger things coming in the future, especially with the move to New Brunswick next year. Much bigger shop. I'll be able to maybe tackle maybe even some river tables and get into bigger stuff. So, you know, but that's a century away. It feels like it anyway. But I've got a ton of work to do in the meantime in packing this workshop up and getting it moved. But that certainly will not be until the spring, that's for sure. All right, well, that's it. Take care, stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. And I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be next week. But one thing I do know for sure, you guys are awesome. See you next week.